Technological growth is critical for developing our communities. Labor productivity is undermined when capital availability is lacking or inadequate. In Nigeria and many African countries, the unemployment rate is higher in rural communities among age groups over 25, mostly because of the lack of access to infrastructure, that is, markets, leadership, and capital. To discuss this, we have with us Dr. Umar Buba Bindere. Dr. Bindere obtained his BSc Honors degree in Agricultural Technology with first class from the University of Maiduguri. After a master's degree, he obtained a PhD in Agricultural Machinery Design and Development Engineering from Cranfield University in the United Kingdom. Following impressive leadership positions in various government organizations, he was appointed Director General and Chief Executive Officer of the National Office for Technology Acquisition and Promotion, NOTAP. Please join me in my discussion with Dr. Umar Bindere. Oh yes, Dr. Bindere, DG, we're happy to have you in our studios, in our Magoni studios. And this, I believe, is your first time in our studios. And I want to say that you're doing a wonderful job. I've been following your progress and you're doing marvelously well. And we often hear people talk of inclusive growth. And I think that you really can have the kind of inclusive growth that we want to have if our communities are not involved, if we don't have mass participation in the economic development process, particularly amongst the people in the communities. And given the kind of work you're doing and the vigor that you bring to the table, I'm just wondering, I'm pretty sure you're doing some things already in the community, but I want you to speak to that to see, what is it that you are doing in the communities and how do you think you can push competitiveness amongst our communities, so that we can truly have the so-called inclusive growth.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me in this wonderful studio. Back to the question, it is very, very clear that anywhere in the world where you have macro growth without micro growth, you will not have peace, literally. And as you said, to get the communities, to get the micro to be energetic, to be part of the economy, and to participate fully, particularly in developing country scenarios like ours, technology has to play a role. Technology to do with productivity, technology to do with production, technology to do with energy supply and utilization, and so on and so forth. So the National Office for Technology Acquisition and Promotion recognizes this, especially as more than 70% of our population are in rural areas. And we try to look at the competitive areas where our rural areas can participate and become and grow to the levels of competitiveness and probably participate fully. And this is in mainly agriculture. Now, in the Ministry of Science and Technology alone, there are 17 agencies doing all sorts of things. And technologies that we pick normally through NOTAP are technologies that can actually go to these rural areas and push them to the next level.
Yes.
Typical examples are technologies that have matured from one of our agencies called the National Buildings and Road Research Institutes. They've come up with this technology that you can actually either pull or using animals or use your car to pull it to site, and you can actually cast interlocking bricks and you can build a house literally in one day.
Wow.
And this probably can push the shelter factor of life and then building of schools.
That's working right now?
That is working. And in fact, you cannot believe this from this agency.
Yes.
That's where Hydroform, the South African company, bought its first prototype and then took it and is now making waves around the world. Absolutely. So the agency is here. That's a very, very fully matured technology. Second, another agency of ours, which is in Zaria, called the National Research Institute for Chemical Technology. This agency has actually perfected the football, the materials, cutting it, sewing it, and making the whole ball. Now imagine In our rural areas alone in this country, we have over 300,000 primary and junior secondary schools. If you are to drop only 10 balls per school, it is a 3 million balls economy. Now, I was director of sports, and I can tell you, buying Adidas balls.
No wonder you're talking about balls.
It varies.
You picked on that so quickly. Yes.
It varies between 15 to 25 or 35,000 naira per one. So even if you say the Nigerian ball is not operating at the level of Adidas, and you are selling it at 5,000 or even 2,000, you are talking of a 6 billion naira.
But you know what struck me right away is even in the production of the balls.
Yes, that is what I'm saying.
Yes.
The cottage industries that can actually spring up in the rural areas.
Absolutely.
So that people are employed, wealth is being created, and you're pushing your country to be visible in terms of products is enormous. So I can go on and on and on, and there's so many of these.
There's something that I know that you're doing, that you interface between research institutions and the industrial organizations.
Yes.
Now, in that case, can you commercialize? I mean, how do you push to commercialize the things that you pull from this relationship, from the relationship of the research institutions and the people who actually produce them? How do you really now mass produce? How do you get those to be mass produced?
Yes. You see, traditionally, what Nigeria has spent over the last 30, 40 years doing that has not affected it micro level was because the formal public institutions, universities, polytechnics, research institutes, when they work and they come up with things, that formal thing that you're talking about commercializing it, moving to the next level, was not part of our character. The expertise was very narrow. So you find that heaps of technologies are still on the table of the scientists, and the villages are actually not seeing it. Still, we dry things on the road, we're pounding things using pestle and mortar, and the grinders are still in the research institutes. So when we came on board, understanding commercialization, looking at formal industry, how does the multinational companies actually work? How do they move their research knowledge into the platform of industry to make a lot of money? And we learned that first, you have to create intellectual property. You must be able to protect these inventions and innovations so that it becomes an asset. You can say, this is protected by a certificate of occupancy.
Yes.
And then once you do that, then you learn the aspects of making sure that it functions well, giving it a good name, packaging it nicely, making sure that it's made quickly so it just functions well. All this branding and industrial designing things were not part of our experiences. We injected that into the research institutions. So now products are beginning to reel out. But research institutes are not institutions to make things to sell. Therefore, they must understand you must let go. Letting go is licensing. Letting go is completely selling the technology. Letting go is actually working in a joint venture. Letting go is franchising. These things were not in our vocabulary. We now put it on board.
But what do you mean? The research institutions, they're usually public institutions.
Yes.
Can they, well, who do they let go to? They let go through you, or do they let go directly to
what we do is
organizations, private organizations?
We sort of do it in both ways.
Okay.
We help them because they have the knowledge to start now having training and capacity building on people who can take this. Okay. So there are entrepreneurship training, there's technical training. So when you get a cluster of young people who are interested in manufacturing the ball, they are trained on how to do it, how to manage it, how to do all their finances, then now the licensing will come. Okay. You are going to take this football technology away to your community and you're going to start manufacturing it. But the licensing agreement which will be signed is, we're going to give you a moratorium period of 1 year so that you can get, you know what to do. But after that,
this moratorium is to who? To the producer?
To the producer, yes. Because you don't want to...
For him, what is the moratorium? For him not to do what?
The moratorium is that because licensing traditionally is that you give me your technology and I have to pay.
Okay.
But, you can't pay when you have not started making money. So they have to give you a bit of, a cushion period of time.
Good.
So, and then the argument will be, or the agreement will be, after that moratorium, for every 100 naira you make, you have to give back to the research institute 20 naira. Okay. So there's a 20% agreement. And then with that, the maturity of both the research institute is motivated to come up with more technologies. And then it is now going formally. Because before we never used to do this.
Yeah.
We thought as a public institution, it has to go free. Yeah. And you're not motivated to train.
How much of that is happening? How much contact is there between private organizations and our research institutions?
Actually, our review when we came on board in NOTAP, it was less than 2%. There was just none. When we reviewed the industrial thing, where are the tech? If you start driving from here to Kano, you still see women working their corn with sticks. Yeah. So where are the threshers? Yeah. You still see cassava and pepper on the road. Yes. So where are the dryers? So this tells you that there are so many professors in the research institutes that have professed writing papers on their dryers and threshers and so on, but the communities are not seeing it. They will say, aha, there is something missing here. So now we go to the research institute, say, well, what you have is still an experimental machine. It has to grow to the next level. Absolutely. So we start looking for funding. We partner with them. We now bring experienced people from industry to now show them that no, this paint on this machine is not nice. This is painting for walls.
There's a funding, you're talking funding for more research or funding for industrial
for commercialization.
Okay.
Yeah, it has to mature because we have so many. You cannot believe this. I led a team in 2011 to go to Ethiopia at the African Union Summit. Nigeria won first, not because we are doing rocket science, but because what the heads of state saw. They saw neem seed fertilizer. They saw cassava grater at the farm gate. Yeah. They saw soap making, and then they said, hey, Nigerians, you've cracked it. This is what communities in Africa requires. Yes. Actually, to us, it's just experimental things that we just want to exhibit what we have done. Yeah. We're still the scientists. But from that point, we said, no, we have to graduate to the next level. We have to move these things that we have perfected to our community. So this is what we actually continue to do. So we have, in fact, we probably will invite you and you'll come to the launch. We are going to launch 100 top matured Nigerian technologies ready to create 5 million jobs in Nigeria.
I have to tell you, I tell my colleagues here, we follow you. I've been following you and I've been very impressed, with the truly excellent job you're doing. Because this is what we need. My focus now is on community economic development and competitiveness. Fantastic. But I think you cannot be successful without these kinds of things.
Yes.
So the local government chairman, our local governments, are they aware of this? Well, some of the things that you're doing.
This is now.
And how can they be aware if they were not?
Yes, actually, the turnover of local governments every 4 years they are moving around and so on and so on, and they have so many things to do. But we try as much as possible because we have a very good what we call as the National Innovation System. We try not to say NOTAP is an agency. Ministry of Science and Technology is our parent ministry. Sure. We have to break the walls. Yeah. When you break the walls, you find that this country has 129 universities and they're working. They have 125 polytechnics and they're working. We have more than 300 public institutions of our type under so many ministries. So NOTAP goes to break the wall so that we have a national innovation system so that wherever you go in Nigeria, you know that somebody or an institution is there and it should be able to be linked to the rest so that these local government do not have to come to Abuja. They don't have to go to Lagos, but an institution in there. So now, using this, there are a lot of flagship programs that we're working to facilitate this. One of them is the ward-based cluster program. We have launched, after cracking all these islands and making sure that we create a system, we realized that
when you say islands, what do you
mean? NOTAP is working as NOTAP. Okay. Raw material research and development is working. But when you don't relate, you waste a lot of resources. So we break that. Now NOTAP is talking to raw materials. We're talking to NAPEP and everybody.